Right, all you up-all-nighters, you insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and drivers, and especially you streetlight crusaders from all around the world. Welcome to the 5:26 in the morning edition of the Tuesday Night Special. I am your insomniatic host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey, bringing you the best from the North, South, East, and West that the world of music, games, and wrestling has to offer. And seeing the fact that according to Carl and the Maestro, we are in the Tuesday night before the loveliest day of the year, in their opinions and not mine, I think it's time for us to waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special, great before loving day of Valentine's edition of the Tuesday Night Special. And I would like to add that they wrote that, not me. But to get back on track here, folks, we kick things off with what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Nashville, Tennessee. Also, besides that, we go ahead and check out a very special Hawaiian supernatural edition of the As Seen on TV, and didn't get a chance to see the movie prior to the show, too. Pretty good, too. Next up on the plate, we go ahead and check out some more Indy Award games, as well as some screenshots and whatnots, and put them all on high display from the world of Cade for another edition of the Cade Triple S Deluxe. Then we find out if Dan the Weatherman Stu finally found a coat that's appropriate for the weather and won't get him a ticket on the highway road in the middle of the night, and what the weather's going to be like for this week for another edition of the Weather Update. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, Dan the Weatherman Stu is wearing a coat with more feathers on it this week, but not peacock feathers. I wonder what feathers he decided to go with. Then finally, last but not least, and hopefully before we have to help Dan the Weatherman Stu clean up the road from all those feathers, we wrap up this show yet another edition of the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys two news stories followed up by local concert information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the Maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, get that broom handy and on the ready for Dan the Weatherman Stu's crazy outfit so we can clean it up. Because it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on your street-lit, moonlit Tuesday night. Only here, right here, on the Tuesday Night Special. So let's get this streetlight show started, folks. Right, all you streetlight crusaders, and I guess a couple of you wrestling fans who are still up for tonight. Welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to talk about what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Nashville, Tennessee. And I guess that would be the home of the belt buckles? You know, I don't have any historical facts about Nashville, but I'm pretty sure they were the home of the belt buckles. And Carl and Maestro said, I think Texas got him beat. Oh yeah, especially with that big one I saw that guy wore that looked like the state of Texas with all the road map stuff on it. It was pretty impressive. Probably cost them a lot of money for all that metal. Heavy metal, that is. But besides that joke that Carl and the Maestro looked sideways at me for, Monday Night Raw would kick off with none other than the winner of the Royal Rumble match on the men's side of Jey Uso, once again leading things into a giant yeet party with "It's just me, Us," and celebrating around the ring for the fans to say one more time, for Jey to oblige and And while he was up on the top of the announce table, leading the fans on once again, we would see a man break up the party in the form of Gunther, not only slamming him against the announce table, slamming him against the apron, and even taking him inside the ring, booting him in the face, and even hitting him with chops and power bombs aplenty, and would tell him, "Don't do it, Jay, don't do it." For Jay to pick up a microphone and say, even though he was called a clown and everything else known to man by Gunther on the ramp, saying, maybe I shouldn't do this, but he says, you and me at WrestleMania. So yep, it's official, ladies and gentlemen. In less than 37 nights, or according to Colin the Maestro, 67 nights, we will see Jey Uso going one-on-one against the Ring General, possibly in the main event of WrestleMania from Viva Las Vegas. Sounds good, and the graphic looked pretty good for it too. And would Gunther get a little bit of his comeuppance after that? Well, yes, he would, because Jey Uso would do a tope suicida to the outside of the ring, taking out Gunther and the security guards that tried to separate him, pissing off Gunther. So I got a feeling Jey Uso's in for another couple of weeks of hell from the Ring General. Yikes. But besides a party that's just getting started, not the party that Jay's gonna be used to, the next thing we would see on Monday Night Raw would be none other than Rhea Ripley talking about what happened last week, and would say that Charlotte is wasting her time staying relevant by stalling to make her decision of who she's gonna fight at WrestleMania. Because for those who didn't know, she didn't make her decision on NXT and definitely didn't make her decision on SmackDown either. Yikes. But we would see her get a little bit of a one-on-one confrontation with Io Sky, with Io saying, you took my opportunity, I'm coming for you. Only for Rhea to say, I'm looking forward to it. And it would lead directly into our first match of the night, which would see Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day teaming up against Damage Control Zone of Kai and Sky. And thank you to New Legacy Inc. for that one, because I thought it was a cool tag team name, so we're going to say it. Now, prior to this match taking place, we would see Liv Morgan picking up the mic and saying that welcome everyone to Monday Night Morgan, and would brag about what she was able to do to not only Io, but at the same time about having the most amount of experience out of any of the women inside of the Elimination Chamber match, even though she didn't win any of them, if I remember correctly. And according to Colin my show, yeah, that's true. It's pretty true. Only for her to get Raquel to say in Spanish what she would say in English, that Raquel is going to qualify next week and she's going to help her win the Elimination Chamber match. Well, I would love to see that happen, but I got a feeling it might not. You know, there's been many a times where I've heard many a team saying they're going to help their partner win a certain insert title moment here and for things to go horribly awry. But outside of that, folks, and speaking of things going awry, during this set contest, we would see not only a dropkick sandwich by Kai and Sky to Raquel for near fall, only for them to come back with a condominium smash and a power slam by Raquel for near fall to Io. Even seeing the three amigos and a shining wizard of sorts by Liv Morgan to none other than Dakota Kai for near fall. And then we would even see a double tope crossbody outside of the ring, leading into a front drop kick and a trip on the bullet train by Io to Liv, still for near fall. Even a butterfly backbreaker by Io Sky couldn't end this match, nor could an assisted codebreaker that looked like a modified version of the Shatter Machine. Still couldn't end this match. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end after we would see a buzzsaw kick directly to the face by Liv Morgan, or more or less Io Sky, leading into a modified version of an over-the-moon salt by Io Sky, being the genius of the sky she is, to win this match via pinfall. Yikes. And after the match was over, we would see later on that night Io getting a little bit of a congratulatory pat on the shoulder by Dakota Kai, only for Rhea Ripley to say that she talked to Adam Pearce, and after what happened, I'm not giving you this match because I feel sorry for you, I'm giving you this match because you deserve it. Because 3 weeks after the Elimination Chamber on Monday Night Raw, you and me for my Women's World Championship. And she would say, I look forward to it. And I look forward to it as well. And the next thing we would see on Monday Night Raw would be a replay of the heinous attack we would see from Kevin Owens from last week's edition of Monday Night Raw. For Kevin Owens to say that the reason why he did it is because Sami Zayn would stand there and watch as he would get Alabama slammed through a ladder and his career almost ended, only to rush to the aid of Roman Reigns when he was in trouble at the Royal Rumble match, and would call him a disgusting human and a horrible friend, and he's going to pay for what he did. Of course he is. Of course he is. Then, meanwhile, in the crowd, we would see the New Day not only talking about what happened last night and for them to get booed and for them being mad about the fact that they didn't get a qualifying match. And then for Kofi to say that he was the one who brought popularity back to the Chamber match, look back at the tapes, and then would say that you should be glad that I wasn't in the Chamber anyway because we would have won it. And you should be glad to also see what winners look like and for their mics to immediately get cut off after New Day suck chants. And of course, boos aplenty with our next match of the night, seeing Bayley going one-on-one against Lia Valkyria for a spot inside of the Elimination Chamber. And Bayley, who this Friday will be in an all-star celebrity basketball game, would see Roxanne Perez in the crowd, who would this weekend be in a match with her in a triple threat match for the NXT Women's Championship that Julia is currently in possession of. And no calling the maestro, not that Julia that's on the snowboard. But to get back to the match, folks, during this contest, we would see counter after counter after counter, because we would see Bayley's basement back elbow to the spine get countered into a backslide pin for a near fall. Lia Valkyria pulling off a spin kick for a near fall. Even a sunset flip bomb by Bayley leading into a counter by Lia Valkyria from the elbow from the top rope, leading into a tornado DDT for Bayley to counter that with a belly-to-belly suplex, still for a near fall. Then we would see Bayley's tribute to Victoria with a shoulder sidewalk spinning slam for a near fall. Even seeing Lia Valkyria pull off a tornado DDT into a fisherman suplex on the floor, leading into another fisherman suplex in the ring, still for a near fall. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end with Bayley with her ring savvy coming into play, not only pulling off a roll-up with Lia's head hitting the ropes, leading into a Lamahi straw-like pinfall for Bayley to win it all and move on to the Chamber via pinfall. And after that big win, we would see a little bit of a show of respect between the two, only for Ivy now to come out and show a lot of disrespect by saying, first you lost at the Rumble, now you lost tonight. Maybe you don't deserve to be Intercontinental Champion after all. Only for Lia Valkyria to tell her that you stay out of my business in the ring and at the gym, and at the same time, maybe you should be worried about your own business. Ooh. And for the Alphas to try to give her a bit of a congratulatory message, and yeah, even though Carl and Michael said we got it backwards, but at the same time, still very rude by American Made with the fact that Chad Gable still nowhere to be found since he's on his quest to become a luchador slayer of sorts. And speaking of luchadors, and the perfect segue thanks to Carl and the Maestro saying it, we would see Penta on the screen, not only showing his disgust after what Ludwig Kaiser and Pete Dunne did last week, and would say, now I'm coming for you. Only for Kaiser to get a microphone backstage and would say that he was gonna go after Penta, only for Pete Dunne to say, I didn't do that for you, and there's no reason I'm teaming up for you, but at the same time, I'm gonna break Penta, for Kaiser to say, it's all yours. And then for Pete Dunne to get that match next week on Monday Night Raw. Not bad. But after that little bit of a sour note hit by Pete Dunne and of course Ludwig Kaiser trying to go for Penta, we would celebrate Michael Cole's birthday with the help of Pat McAfee getting 13,000 plus to sing happy birthday to Michael Cole and would say, congratulations, you turned 60. Of course. But after that little birthday celebration, folks, we would see the return of the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. And back after a 4-month injury that would take place in this same exact place against the match that he had with Carmelo Hayes. And he would say that he's ready to get back into the ring and prove why in the world he's still the phenomenal AJ Styles. But would get interrupted by Dominic Mysterio, who would get booed out of the arena. But he would say that things have changed around here, but the Judgment Day still runs Raw. And for AJ Styles to say, yeah, I know who you guys are, I still got the battle scars to prove it, but at the same time, where's Damian Priest? Where's Rhea Ripley? As a matter of fact, where's Finn? Is he doing something else? And he didn't expect to get cut off by a guy wearing purple skinny jeans, that's you, Carlito, and especially Dominic Mysterio that no one likes. But he would say at the same time that he's impressed by his work ethic and would say, despite all that, he'll still always be Ray's punk-ass kid. For Dominic Mysterio to take offense, Carlito to try to take the offense, but would get hit right upside the head with a Pele kick. For Dominic Mysterio to try to take advantage of the situation, fall short, roll out of the ring, for Carlito to try to clean up and get cleaned up with a phenomenal forearm. And why, folks? Because AJ Styles is phenomenal. And after that little display we would see, folks, next thing you would see in the crowd, none other than Seth Rollins, who would say that the path to WrestleMania is getting clearer and clearer by the second, and all eyes are on who's gonna win the Elimination Chamber, and the person who's gonna win just might be a visionary, just might be a revolutionary, it just might be Seth freaking Rollins. Only for Finn Balor to show up and say that, you know, for a guy that confident, you don't know what you did this past couple of months, have you? Not only did you fail to win Monday Night Raw debut on Netflix and lost to CM Punk, you've lost your mind during the Royal Rumble match, and people are really starting to see the downfall of Seth Rollins. And then he would say that, I don't even see you as a proper opponent because, yeah, you're the only thing standing between me and the chamber, and it's against a guy who's falling apart. And for Seth Rollins to fire back by saying that anytime we get in the ring, we put on a show, and he's got some loose ends to tie up, but after next week, you're not going to be in my way or standing at all. Only for meanwhile back in the clubhouse of the said Judgment Day, we would see Dominic Mysterio saying that he'll take care of things with AJ Styles for Finn to say, yeah, you will, because you started that mess, you're gonna finish it. And then Dominic would sound off by saying, maybe we should get some new members in the group because, you know, I needed a little bit more help out there. Where were you? Only for Finn to say, no new members, and he's gonna fix everything, win the Elimination Chamber, go to WrestleMania, and become world champion. So Finn, yeah, I got a feeling if you want to talk about people falling off the deep end, he really is. Well, then he's been that way for several months on end, especially after that back and forth he had with Damian Priest that put him in the hospital. And I got a feeling it's only gonna get worse than that. But besides that little crystal ball predicto for Finn Balor in the near future, next match we've got up on Monday Night Raw would see none other than the Creeds going one-on-one against the War Raiders. And the Creeds, especially Brutus, would take this as a laughing matter. And I got a feeling he might have regretted his decision after getting forearmed in the face and hit it with not only an assisted slam on the outside, and of course for Julius to suffer the wrath of a crossbody into the apron, only for Brutus to pick up a pinfall, almost, but was short by a second. Near fall, according to Carl and Maestro. Leading into a sit-out powerbomb still for a near fall. Even seeing the War Raiders pulling off not only gut checks over in the corner to Julius for near fall, but would even see the Creeds coming back with not only a Tiger Knee and Fireman's Carry combination to Eric for a near fall. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end with not only assisted slams, power bombs, suplex combinations, and even the War Machine being attempted, but unfortunately would be snuffed out thanks to a title shot right to the face after getting a title shot for the team of the War Raiders to win this match and retain the championships via disqualification. And after they lost the match via disqualification, we would see Eric getting hit in the face with the championship belt for American Made to celebrate with the tag team championships they didn't even win. So I can only imagine how Chad Gable would feel about this, probably telling him, oh, you did your job as intensity, but you lost sight on the gold, or something like that, who knows. But after that failed shot at the tag team championships, thanks to their own doing, next up on Monday Night Raw, we would see CM Punk making his way to the ring and would ask Pat McAfee after that Super Bowl commercial, why in the world did he look like Mr. Rooney from Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Good question. But at the same time, we'd get back on track and look at the sign for WrestleMania. And would say that we're on the road to WrestleMania, and he came out here and he was going to do what he said, and he told everybody that he was going to win the Royal Rumble, but at the same time, he did. And he's upset about that. But he's not upset at Jay and the man who decided to fight against Gunther at WrestleMania, but says to Cody Rhodes with the path clear to WrestleMania that, remember when I said I wasn't going to stab you in the back, I'm going to stab you in the front? Now I got to do it. Because what he's going to do is he's going to win the said Elimination Chamber match against all the people who qualified, including the one man who didn't, which was John Cena. And would say that he is a legend and deserves to call his shot, and at some point when they get into that ring, he is going to see him and beat him to a pulp inside of the chamber. And he doesn't care what Drew McIntyre says and the fact that he ran off to another show. And remember what he did to him in Hell in a Cell? Can you imagine what he's going to do to him in the chamber? And would say that it doesn't matter who in the world is going to be inside that chamber because he's winning the chamber, and WrestleMania 41 belongs to one man with 3 syllables, CM Punk. Only for Logan Paul to come out and spoil the moment. And would say that when he tossed him out, that was the greatest 15 minutes of fame he's ever gotten in his career. And would say that he's got to give another man 15 seconds of fame as well in the form of Rey Mysterio when he fights him tonight. But CM Punk would say, congratulations for tossing me over, and I completely forgot you were even in a qualifying match. And don't worry about me, you should be worried about Rey. And if you can get past Rey, and if you're lucky enough to make it to the chamber, I'll put you to sleep in it. And Rey Mysterio would make his way out to the ring for Logan Paul to say that it's an honor to be in the ring with the second greatest Mysterio, and would give a shout out to Dominic, and would say that even though he's rich and famous, he's here because he's here for the love of the sport. And he loved taking that title away from Rey in Saudi Arabia. Now he's going to take his spot in the chamber next. And during this match, as it would kick off, Rey Mysterio would get a little bit of revenge in our main event of the evening, which would see Dominic Mysterio, or should I say Rey Mysterio, going one-on-one against Logan Paul for the next spot inside of the Elimination Chamber that Drew McIntyre, and of course none other than the person who won last week, currently in the match as well too. But either way you look at it, folks, during this match, things would get bad for Rey Mysterio. Even though he would be able to slap Logan Paul in the face after what he did last week, Logan Paul would come back with not only a gut-wrench slam for near fall, even the moonsault and battery plex off the top rope with Rey Mysterio, and a little shout out to Iron Demon for it, still for near fall. Even with channeling his spirit of the Ultimate Warrior with the Warrior Splash, still for near fall. For Rey Mysterio to come back with not only a counter into the stairs and a slip and slide splash to Logan Paul on the outside of the ring, but would even be able to hit a standing plancha as well as a grounded plancha and a lion salt for near fall. For Logan Paul to try to pull one-upsmanship and pull off a rolling senton into a lion salt nearly all the way across the other side of the ring, still for near fall. Satellite DDT by Rey Mysterio. Nothing. 619 getting countered after he would try to drop the dime with a giant oversized boot to the face. For Rey Mysterio to come back with a sit-out powerbomb for near fall, which was very impressive, I may add. Only for none other than Logan Paul to come back with one final knockout punch during this match and pull off a move which was a back suplex DDT that is now being called the Pulverizer. Good name for the move. I'll give credit where credit is due for Logan Paul to punch his ticket to go inside of the Elimination Chamber in Canada via pinfall. And after the match was over, we would see New Day, who was already pissed off enough at Rey Mysterio to attack him after the match was over, for Xavier Woods to grab a chair and slam it against the leg of Rey Mysterio against the post to send the message to the masked luchador and to prove that New Day rocks. And how is that possible? No, not at all. Especially for actions like that. Really? Okay. But what will happen next week on Monday Night Raw, folks? Will we see Rey Mysterio coming back for revenge with the LWO? Who else will qualify for the Elimination Chamber match? Will Finn Balor finally get that 7-year demon off his back and finally be able to capture gold once again? And will we see any other big surprises on Raw as we make our road to WrestleMania more clear as days pass on? Will we find out the answer to that and more next time for another exciting edition of Monday Night Raw? And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to go and grab a glass of water and head back into these musical tunes. And when we return, we'll be back with more Streetlight Delight as the Tuesday Night Special rolls on right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you Insomniatic TV channel surfers out there tonight, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to go into yet another great screen-to-screen edition of the As Seen on TV. And the show we have up on the plate for this week is none other than Lilo and Stich, the series. And yes, Carl and the Maestro, I do realize saying a Hawaiian sci-fi experimental show was a little bit of a giveaway, but at the same time, was worth it. And the meat and potatoes for this said show would pick up right when the movie left off, leaving Lilo and Stich trying to recover the rest of the experiments that was from the said guy that gave them away. And according to Carl and the Maestro, it'd be Jumba's 623 missing experiments that they would try to bring back or convert from good or from evil to good. Yeah, best way to describe it. Now, what did I like about this show outside of the fact that this continued the movie into a TV series? Well, the music that would be featured during the said show, which would be produced by none other than Danny Jacob and Mark Hammond, with lyrics by Danny Jacob and Ali B. Olmo performing the said song Aloha I Komo Mai. And that's the best Hawaiian we can deliver during this show, folks. Another thing that I loved about this said show, besides the different experiments that was featured during it, would have to be the different people that were involved during the show as well, including none other than Davy Chase, who would be none other than Lilo for 67 episodes of this said show, but at the same time would also be the voice of Lilo during the movie and Samara during the movie The Ring in 2002. And also, according to Carla the Maestro, was also featured during the animated film of Spirited Away as Chihiro. Oh, I never knew that. And also was featured in 2001 as Samantha Darko in the film of Donnie Darko. Surprisingly enough, she didn't make the return as Samantha Darko in the sequel to Donnie Darko of S. Darko. Huh, never knew that. But to get back on track here, folks, next up you have none other than Chris Sanders, who would play Stich for 67 episodes of the show of Lilo and Stitch, but would also play none other than a writer a part of the original Lilo and Stitch in 2002, as well as a writer a part of How to Train Your Dragon, The Wild Robot, The Croods, and would even be able to produce characters a part of the TV series of Stitch back in 2008. Not bad. Then you have none other than the late great David Ogen Steers, who would not only be a part of the TV series of MASH as Major Charles Winchester for 131 episodes, but would also be Cogsworth and the narrator a part of the original 91 film of Beauty and the Beast, as well as playing Governor Ratcliffe and Wiggins a part of the 95 film of Pocahontas, and would even play Jumba a part of Lilo and Stitch, as well as the TV series as well too. Next up on the play after that, we have Kevin McDonald, who would not only play as various characters a part of the hilarious show of Kids in the Hall for 105 episodes, as well as playing Mr. Medulla, a part of Sky High, as well as an announcer in the 99 film of Galaxy Quest, and would even play Peakley, or Bleakley? According to Carla the Maestro, we were right with the second one, not only in the said film, but the TV series of Lilo and Stitch. And according to Carla the Maestro, he was also featured as the Principal Gil in the said film of Diener 89. Not bad. Next up on the plate, we have Kevin Michael Richardson. Nice name, by the way. Who would not only play Goro, a part of the 95 film of Mortal Kombat, but would also play Captain Gonu, a part of Lilo and Stitch, and I do believe was even a part of the video game of Kingdom Hearts, and was also featured as Prime number 2 in Skipjack in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, as well as playing P. Biggie, a part of Hoodwink in 2005. Then you have the man that we mentioned just about everything we possibly could in his career from Warner Brothers of Rob Paulsen, who would play none other than Experiment 625 amongst others in 30 episodes of Lilo and Stitch, as well as playing your lovable characters, a part of the Atomaniacs. I was about to say the Atomaniacs, but apparently according to Carla the Maestro, no, not that one. He would be playing none other than Yakko Warner, Pinky, and Dr. Otto in 99 episodes of the Animaniacs, not the Animal Maniacs, and also Pinky, a part of Pinky and the Brain, and Donatello and Raphael, amongst others, a part of 124 episodes of the 2012 series of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Carla the Maestro said, I got a feeling every animated show you mention in the future that mentions this man, we're gonna have to find new things to mention about him, about his movie career too. Yeah, you're right. And And to get back on track, folks, none other than Jillian Henry, who was a part of this show, who would also be a part of the bench warmers as Gretchen Peterson in 2006. An additional crew member are Mrs. Feige, a part of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse, and also a part of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and even Thor Love and Thunder. Part of a lot of Marvel films. And even a part of Special Agent Oso as Brianna for one episode. Then you have none other than Lena Murphy, or Lena Mummy? Carl and Michael said you were right with the first one, who would not only be a part of Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2 as Jessica Barker, but would also be a part of the Santa Claus series as Lucy Miller for that said film. And would also be none other than Lenny Loud, Lenny and Fan, a part of 114 episodes of The Loud House. Then finally, last but not least, according to Carl and the Maestro, since we can't be here all night for this one, we see none other than Jeff Bennett, who would not only be a part of the TV series of Johnny Bravo as, well, Johnny Bravo, but would also be none other than Pip in the said movie of Enchanted, Kowalski in the Penguins of Madagascar, and even none other than Yosemite Sam and Foghorn Leghorn in Looney Tunes Back in Action. A movie that Carl and Michael told me I have to watch one day, and we will. We will. Now, my favorite episodes a part of this show would have to be not only the episode that featured Penn and Teller as experiments, but also would have to be the episode that featured not only the Proud family a part of this show, Kim Possible featured during this show, but even the boys and girls from Recess involved in this show as well too, which is absolutely insane for a show like this, because it made me wonder, how in the world did they all find their way to Hawaii? It's weird. And if you guys want to check out the other weird characters that was involved during it, which would be American Dragon Jake Long, and Carl and the Michael saying before we list all places where you could watch this show originally, which would have been either Toon Disney, the Disney Channel, and ABC Kids where this show would air, and would originally kick off as of September 20th of 2003, and unfortunately come to an end almost 3 years later as of July 29th of 2006, having well over 65 episodes or 67 segments, with one final episode that led to Leroy and Stich the film to wrap things up in the most craziest ways known possible. And seeing the fact that we don't know how to review TV shows along the lines of TV Guide or any of those other TV reviewers that you know of out there, we say this. If you guys want to go ahead and check out a cool family that treats every single experiment that crosses their way on the island of Hawaii like an ohana, which is family in their terms, and the craziest ways known possible, finding a use for every single experiment to live happy in a aloha oi environment, then I recommend you go out there, pick up your TV channel remotes, and watch that show. And trust me, folks, definitely a cool show with a lot of family elements in it, no matter which way you look at it. And a lot of crossovers, too. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back into that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with more of the Tuesday Night Special right after this. So don't go watching reruns of Seinfeld just yet, folks. And stay tuned. And we're back with the Insomniatic Show that celebrates a show well over 22 years old with plenty of excitement still in it, only known as the Tuesday Night Special. And Carl and the Maestro asked me which one of the experiments was our favorite. Well, I already said it was Penn and Teller, but there was another one that Lilo would call Honker that was our favorite. That sounded like one of those party favors and was a real nice caricature that was featured at a carnival. Yeah, ended up working at a carnival. I wonder if they'll ever have a Where Are They Now series for all the characters when they were featured. And Carl and the Maestro said when Larry and Stich took over, technically they did. Yeah, and I think that honker is still working at the said carnival too to this day. But besides experiments working at carnivals, folks, I think it's time for us to get to work mentioning these indie video game hits and clips and awards, as well as indie games to scratch that indie itch you got at home from the world of IndieCade for another edition of the IndieCade Triple S Deluxe. And we kick things off with the art wall. And the art wall picture that we have up for this week comes from Somi, with their said artwork from the video game of The Wake, Morning Father, Morning Mother. And the artwork that we were provided with for this week shows apparently what appears to be an analog ticker machine trying to decipher some form of message that was left in a block of wood, which would feature not only a right arrow, an R, E, K, Y, P, H, R, and an A, all trying to figure it out with the help of the decipherer for it to say decryption complete. And according to Carl and the Maestro, it's incomplete, and can I decipher the message now? No, I'm not good with those sort of puzzles. And this automatically reminds me of, I would have to say The Mysteries of Shelby Woo, if anybody remembers that, a part of Nickelodeon back in the day. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that you can get a friend to join alongside with you to help you try to decipher these puzzles. And according to Carl and the Maestro, they said they'll help, but you might have to pay us first. Okay, I'll give you the $5 for that later. But besides getting help on puzzles, folks, we now move our way on over towards the sound wall. And the sound we have up for this week comes from none other than Jordan Henderson with their said song of a tense situation, Stealth in G minor. And when I close my eyes while listening into this sound, it automatically reminds me of that monochrome detective show I tried to host called Egad! Who Done It? And with all capital letters, and the announcer had to scream it every single time, and would get ticked off after every intro, making the show more or less silly than a mystery-solving show. And only 3 people were able to solve every single mystery on the first try. And according to Carl and the Maestro, that won him a trip to England to see the famous Scotland Yard. Oh yeah, remember the grand prize at the end of the show. If you were able to solve all the mysteries with no help, you could actually go to Scotland Yard in England and meet the detectives. How did that go anyway? Oh, there was no return flight for them. Oh, they're still in England to this day? How did that work? Apparently it wasn't in the show budget to bring them back. Ouch. And with that said, folks, and I got a feeling a couple of phone calls we got to make after the show, we now make our way on over to the Screenshot Saturday Showcase. And the Screenshot Saturday Showcase picture we have up for this week comes from the developers of Both Good with their set game of Goo Goo Grapplers. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows apparently someone on a keyboard that looks like that is a baby. A baby on a rainbow keyboard on one side of the screen, and on the other split side of the screen, a whole bunch of what appears to be either toddlers or infants crawling down a rainbow-like road, trying to make their way to the next adventure. Now, I would have to say this automatically reminds me of a top-side version of the Rugrats if it was in 2D. Yeah, definitely reminds me of that. And here's hoping in the near future for this game that not only you get a chance to find out what's on the end of that rainbow bridge, but maybe, just maybe, a chance to play some cool tunes on that said rainbow-like keyboard. because I got a feeling it would play a magical tune, and according to Call of the Maestro, it might get rid of some of the pieces on the Rainbow Bridge. Oh, that could end terribly. But I still want to play that keyboard. I don't care what you say. But besides tickling the rainbow ivories of a cool-looking keyboard, folks, and Carl and the Maestro told me we forgot some cool awards to be mentioned, we now go into the honorary awards from the Indie Awards for this year, the Indy Cade Festival of Game Awards. And the first one we have up, which is the Trailblazer Award, goes to Spurry with their game of Hotel Barcelona. Then you have the Avant-Garde Award that goes to Supergiant Games. Next award on the plate goes to Wise Guys Events with their award-winning game of Wise Guy Events, which got them the Bernie DeCoven Big Fun Award. Not bad. Then you have for the Game Changer Award, Sarah Elmier. And with those awards finally mentioned of the honorary awards, we now make our way on over to the Indie Itch games to scratch that indie itch you've got tonight. And the first game we have up comes from Soy Sauce. Nice name, by the way, with their set game of Turtle Terror. C. Mitch with their set game of My Valentine. Barden with their set game of Endless Enemies, and cool artwork, by the way. Moon VR6 with their set game of Project Thunder. Nice name for the game. E-Rock 2014 with their set game of Chimp Place Alpha 2. And finally, last but certainly not least, with from the creators Poppy Chulo. Nice name, by the way, with their set game of Chasing Man. And as we try to gain our composure, folks, if you guys want to go ahead and check out any of these cool games that are still making their way through the said Indie Itch page to scratch that indie itch you've got at home, then you can go ahead and head on over to the itch.io page, only known as itch.io, under the games section to check out all of those cool games for yourselves. And trust me, folks, you'll be there for a while because there's well over 1 million of them. Trust me. And if you also want to go ahead and check out any other cool games or artwork, sound walls, and screenshots of whatnots that are still coming through the said Indiecade page, and actually submit some of your own, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Indiecade.tumblr page of one man only known as Indiecade.tumblr.com, or head on over to their Facebook page known as Indiecade, or even their Twitter, Flickr, Instagram, YouTube, Soundcloud, Steam Machine, or website that are all named the same, but it's just as critically acclaimed, only known as, you guessed it, folks, Indiecade. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back into that music and continue to listen into these diamonds to the rough as we try to turn your Tuesday night into a Friday night. Only here, right here, on the Tuesday Night Special. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Alright, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And as a bit of a heads up, folks, that song you just heard was Destinee Law with their song of Girl Crush, which will be debuting as of Valentine's Day on Friday, February 14th. And alongside with that, a very happy belated birthday to my old English teacher, none other than Douglas Lear, or Mr. Lear as he's called, who I didn't know and was told by Carl and the Maestro, who found out, is now a part of a rock group called The Edge. And they're going to be playing at the Rookies on March 15th of 2025. So Happy birthday, man. Good to see you still on those drums, beating those skins, and we can't wait to see what sort of musical things you bring to the table in the near future. And I find it appropriate that he would be a part of a metal band. I always see that it was going to happen in the near future, but no, better late than never. And speaking of people who's late, and the reason we had to mention that news a little bit ahead of time from Music Village, none other than Dan the Weatherman Stu here to bring us the 5-day weather forecast for this week. Dan the Weatherman Stu, the microphone is all yours, and why in the world are you wearing that ridiculous coat this week? Oh, hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, it's your boy from Chicago, Illinois, Dan the Weatherman Stu here to begin a 5-day weather forecast for this week. And the reason why in the world Dan the Weatherman Stu is wearing this coat because it's currently snowing outside. And plus it looks cool. Take a gander. Take a gander. All right, well, for those at home who can't see, I'll describe this the best way we know how. You remember that giant oversized Cruella de Vil coat that looked like it was made out of Dalmatians? Just imagine that with goose feathers all over it. You know what? What Canadian goose did you pluck to get that coat made? I'm trying to wonder. I really am. No, DJ Smokey, this was made by a French designer. Really? What was her name? Ole Goose? You know what? I don't even care. Before I get a headache, just go do the weather. Just do me a favor. Do the weather. Just do the weather. Jeez, every week. Now I gotta clean these feathers up. All right. So for tonight, that's right, Tuesday night, it's gonna be a low of 25. Snow showers all around with less than an inch at 74%, with winds going northeast at 3 miles per hour. And on Wednesday, a cloudy day for you, cause it's gonna be a high of 33, low of 31. Cloudy skies all around with winds going east, northeast at 8 miles per hour. And on Thursday, a sunny but rainy day for you, cause it's gonna be a high of 45, low of 25. Morning showers at 61% with winds going west at 16 miles per hour. And on Friday, start of the lovely weekend, blah blah, cause it's gonna be a high of 34, low of 20 degrees. Mostly sunny skies with winds going northwest at 17 miles per hour. And on Saturday, more snow in the house, cause it's gonna be a high of 36, low of 31. Nightly snow showers at 95% with winds going southeast at 8 miles per hour. And on Sunday, not a sunny day at all, cause it's gonna be a high of 43, low of 19. Rainy skies all around at 89% with winds going north at 10 miles per hour. And now you know, cause I've gotta go, because I am Dan, what a man's doing, I am through for the weather broadcast for this week. And now back to the man who's holding a geese feather in his hand, DJ Smokey for the Tuesday Night Special. Yeah. All right, Dan the Weatherman Stu. I don't know what French designer gave you this coat, but as a little bit of a heads up, it looks like they super glued these feathers to this coat instead of putting them inside and putting a band on them. I don't know how to design a coat. All I gotta tell you is these feathers is gonna get you in trouble again with that officer on the highway road if you drop the top on your car, which I really do not recommend you do. As a matter of fact, why did you do that in the first place? Well, DJ Smokey, I turned on the air conditioner and all the feathers started flying around in the car. That's the reason why I had to do it. Okay, so have you learned your lesson from last time? You know what? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Instead, I'll see you next week. You go on and run along, disco dance your way out of here, and yeah, try to get a better coat than geese feathers. Don't worry, DJ Smokey, I got something better than that for next week. See you then. Dan the Waterman Stew out. Yeah, you know, the sad part is that's what I'm afraid of. He's going to come in here with something crazier than goose feathers. For all I know, it might be dove feathers. Oh, no, he's writing it down. Don't you dare come here with a coat with dove feathers. What do you think you're doing? And he's gone. And he's gone. Now, he's going to look like another avian animal when he gets here on the microphone next week. So, you know what? Before I lose my composure on this microphone, I think it's time for me to calm down and head back into your musical tunes. And when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the Indy Report right after this. So don't head downstairs for that pre or post midnight snack just yet, folks. And stay tuned. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And yeah, apparently according to Carl and the Maestro, Dan the Weatherman Stu said he's got something really special that he's gonna wear for the Indy Awards that'll be taking place by next week. Holy crap, this month flew by quick, but hey, hence the reason why we call this month so great for the 28 Days of Greatness. It can be here and gone in a flash with a lot of great things to happen in between. Like Dan the Weatherman Stu in his car with the air conditioning on and a whole bunch of feathers flying around like a tornado. Yeah, Carl and the Maestro sent me the picture and yeah, it was funny. I was in tears and in stitches, but he was in feathers. All he needed was some tar and that would have been perfect. And Carl and the Maestro wondering, why do I want him tarred and feathered? I don't want him tarred and feathered. I was just saying it would have been funny. But outside of Dan the Weatherman Stu being stuck in a car with a whole bunch of feathers, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories followed up by local concert information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And in our first news story, and in sad news from the world of movies, Peter Navy Tuiasosopo, hopefully we said that last name right, unfortunately passed away this week at the age of 61 years old. Now, for those who don't know who this man was, not only he was featured during the TV show of New Girl, NCIS, but was also featured during the 2001 film of The Fast and the Furious, but was also featured during a movie we most recently reviewed known as Street Fighter as E. Honda. And boy, oh boy, definitely was in one of my favorite scenes, a part of the said film of Street Fighter, fighting against Zangief in a giant, or more or less a miniature city of the city that was featured for none other than Bison. I think it was called Bisonopolis or something like that. Either way you look at it, folks, with the Godzilla roaring in the background while they were fighting was a funny thing to see. And we here at the Tuesday Night Special would like to say on behalf of Peter, may your work live on forever, and may you forever rest in peace. And in other news, and more or less news from the world of Monster Hunter, For you out there who never truly got a chance to experience the magic of Monster Hunter Worlds, with the open beta being cut one day short due to the fact of the said PlayStation outage that took place on Friday, and yeah, according to Call of the Maestro, was out for almost well over 24 hours. I would say technically 20, but either way you look at it, folks, the developers of Monster Hunter would come back with some good news, because they would say the following on their Twitter page. Hunters, we're pleased to confirm that due to the PlayStation Network outage that occurred during the first week of the Open Beta Part 2, we're expanding the second week of the Open Beta 2 by 24 hours on all platforms. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. That means the Open Beta will be going onward until the 18th of this said month. And I, for one, who always wanted to fight that creature with the chains on it once again to try to get another shot at it, yeah, I'm definitely going to give it a swing to see if I can pull off a couple more cool attacks with the hunting horn and try out a couple of other weapons to see what I'm going to settle with once the game comes out in less than 2 weeks' time. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the rewards you can get and the times listed for when the open beta will kick off for you at home, then you can go ahead and check it out on the Twitter page of one man only known as Monster Hunter to check it out for yourselves. And as a little bit of a heads up, the open beta test will kick off as of February 13th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but for others in the mountain area of time, it will kick off as of February 14th at 3 a.m. and will come to an end as of February 17th at 6:59 Pacific Standard Time, and February 18th for those in the mountain areas. And as also another little bit of a heads up for those who compete in this said second open beta test, for when the full game release, you will get a stuffed feline teddy. Looks pretty cool too. And with that announcement of things that you can get from an open beta, folks, we now head into the concert information for this week, where we kick things off with Scotty Combs, who's going to be performing at the Commodore Grill in Nashville, Tennessee at 6 p.m. You can also see Ripple All-Stars, who's going to be performing at the Bitter End in New York, New York at 6 p.m. Next after that, you also have Desert Bloom, who's going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 6 p.m. Mark Searcy is going to be performing at the Sam's Burger Joint in San Antonio, Texas at 7 p.m. Sherry Sweet is going to be performing at Eddie's Attic in Decorah, Georgia at 7 p.m. Pentagram with Early Moods is all going to be performing at the Brick by Brick in San Diego, California at 7:30 p.m. Jasmine Sky is going to be performing at the Untitled in Chicago, Illinois at 7:30 p.m. You can also see Sam Barber with Joanna Kagan, who's going to be performing at the Janice Live in St. Petersburg, Florida at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Wednesday night, you can see Greg Fundies, who's going to be performing at the Mom's Place in Chicago, Illinois at 9 p.m. And on Thursday, February 13th, just one day before Valentine's Day, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. The C4 Band is going to be performing at the Bobby's Idle Hour Tavern in Nashville, Tennessee at 12:30 p.m. Todd Allen Hendrine is going to be performing at the Todd Hendrine Theater in Panama City Beach, Florida at 5:30 p.m. Saigon Kick, nice band name, it's going to be performing at the Brick by Brick in San Diego, California at 6 p.m. Bill White is going to be performing at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee at 6 p.m. You can also see Patrick Rogers and the Absolute Unit, nice band names, who's all going to be performing at the Sticky's Rock and Roll Chicken Shack in Little Rock, Arkansas at 6:30 p.m. Buck Yeager is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. Dawn and Hawks, nice band name, is going to be performing at the McDonald's Monkey Duck in Houston, Texas at 7 p.m. Prettier Than Matt, nice band name, is going to be performing at the Delaney's Irish Pub in Spartanburg, South Carolina at 7:30 p.m. The Hobbs Sisters is going to be performing at the Listening Room Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee at 8:30 p.m. The Warsaw Poland Brothers and the Mod Professor is both going to be performing at the Frog and Peach Pub in San Luis Obispo, California at 9 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Thursday night, you can see We Collective, who's going to be performing at the Elite's Bar and Restaurant in Minneapolis, Minnesota at 9:30 p.m. And for Tuesday for next week, which is the 18th of February already, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. Greg Mathers is going to be performing at the Little Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 12 p.m. The Castaways is going to be performing at the Little Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 3 p.m. The Whites is going to be performing at the Little Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 6 p.m. Starting to see a theme here. Anyway, next band we have up is Martin Rivas with Zach Jones, Robbie Gill, and Evan Watson, who's all going to be performing at the Bitter End in New York, New York at 6:30 p.m. Nate Nielsen Acoustic is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. Tim Hort is going to be performing at the Plains Theater in the Plains, Illinois at 7 p.m. Morris Nelms is going to be performing at the Elephant Room in Austin, Texas at 9 p.m. You can also see Austin Mays with Haliana, nice band names, who's all going to be performing at the Saxton Pub in Austin, Texas at 10 p.m. And completely out of order according to Carl and Maestro, and they're correct, you can see Marty Seymour, who's going to be performing at the Froggies in Virginia Beach, Virginia at 7 p.m. Screaming Rebel Angels with Luke Combs, UK, who's all going to be performing at the Alchemy in Providence, Rhode Island at 8 p.m. Annalisa Kirby is going to be performing at the Keystone Corner in Baltimore, Maryland at 7 p.m. Sherry Robert Grimes is going to be performing at the Madison Pub in Everett, Washington at 7 p.m. Mike Garanja with the Coots is going to be performing at the Tree Tavern in Wanacue, New Jersey at 6 p.m. Shelly King with Carolyn Wonderland is all going to be performing at the Continental Club in Austin, Texas at 6 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Tuesday for next week and all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you can see Jamal Coleman, aka Prophet P, who's going to be performing at the Strat Hotel Casino and Sky Pod in Las Vegas, Nevada at 10 p.m. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast, and trust me folks, there were a lot of them, you can can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast. And while you're over there, folks, check out a couple of their cool tunes. Trust me, they're worth the listen. Like we say at the end of all of these skits, go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for the Tuesday Night Special for this week, right after this. So don't go watching those infomercials just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, all you Streetlight Crusaders, seeing the fact that we've ran fresh out of Streetlight Crusading oil for the night and we've got to get out of here to get some more for next week's show, while the snow is still light, we might as well bring the Tuesday Night Special for this week to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of that Streetlight delight that we were able to give you for this week, don't worry, we got you covered, because you can catch the show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag Tuesday Night Special 526. And if you're wondering at home, that's how many feathers flew off the coat of Dan the Weatherman Stew, about 526 of them. And Carla the Maestro said they counted 550, but I'm trying to go with the episode numbers here of what I was able to pick up off the floor. So thanks for the heads up for the real head count. And if you guys and gals out there want to figure out what the crazy and zany things we still got prepared for this month of greatness, like a great amount of feathers I had to clean up and put inside of a vacuum cleaner, and a trash can outside for the trash people to pick up as of tomorrow morning, then you can go ahead and head on over to our Twitter, YouTube, and Discord pages, still all named the same, only known as the Double Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you the Streetlight Crusaders out there, for listening into a very special pre-loving late night snowy delight edition of the Tuesday Night Special. If you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like E. Honda in the movie Street Fighter. Yeah, you know the PR department knows where I'm going with this one, and they're giving me the thumbs up. Yeah, and not to mention wearing an E. Honda outfit too. Yeah, like the Hawaiian strip on that one. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for doing that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And here's hoping there's a chance for you to play some cool music to shoo away the snow. And why do we think that, folks? Because we believe in you guys. That's why. That's why. And speaking of musical people we would like to thank during this show that hopefully can get rid of the snow. Yeah, I'm a poet and I don't know it. We would like to thank our musical guest for this week, none other than Jason Klug, with their said song of Pet the Dog that was featured during the intro for this week's edition of the show. Destinee Law with their said song of Girl Crush that was featured during this said show. And of course, to none other than Carla the Maestro with their said songs of Lunar Awakening, and of course the song you're listening to right now of the Late Night Cafe Wrap-Up that's currently wrapping things up for this week's edition of the Tuesday Night Special. Like always, guys, keep up the great work, and we can't wait to hear what you got coming down the tubes next. And finally, finally, last but not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for coming out with all those sweet video game hits and clips we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And like always, keep them coming, because you never know what show might be lurking around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys out there, how we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro, and for you up-all-nighters, late-night drivers, insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and especially you streetlight crusaders who hopefully will have the streets cleaned by tomorrow morning, saying, I'm Sumo, brother. My mind can be here, my body someplace else. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll see you guys next week for a very special pre-Indy Awards edition of the Tuesday Night Special. But until then, as always, go get some sleep and good night, everybody.